Okay.
Ya, silakan.
Okay. Hello, YouTuber. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Welcome to MasterClass 3 about interdisciplinary approach of sustainability science in assessing the zonation for biosphere reserve. And keynote speaker from our last ASEAN Sustainability Leadership October in Bali. And for this summary for Masterclass 3 is actually I would like to introduce on how the interdisciplinary approach for sustainability science applied to assess the zonation for the potential of biosphere reserve in Bali province, and also according to the structural model of biosphere. So we would like to see the zonation itself from the core zone, buffer zone, and transition zone, and how is each discipline may contribute to the establishment of the zonations. And of course, we are not ambitious to cover more discipline. We have tourism sector, socioeconomic and education discipline to help us in possibility for zonation for BRs. And yeah. For the objective, of course, to establish the donations, the speakers, and first of all, I would like also to draw your attention that when we are talking about the sustainability, we are talking about the global scale of problems related with environmental. It is a complex, synergistic, and accumulative, and is very highly dynamic. And also, it's not one way of impact or straightforward of effect, but it's non-linear causal chains and have a significant time lags, and because of that the interplay between social and natural system has action and reaction interaction combination of effect. For example, like if you know that Bali is one of the world attraction for sport tourism or sports tourism, or that attract global attraction for the global at the global level. And Bali province also face series of socioeconomic related to environmental man-made problems that what we call as sustainability problems. So we know that tourism sector became the main contributor to the Bali province gross national incomes, and added to the existing problem related with the tourism sector in Bali that we already present in the Masterclass 2 on the 28th November. The inscription of Bali province as World Heritage Site. Heritage Site is also another increase, another stress and demand for infrastructure to support the Jatiluwi tourism in Jatiluwi, which also the Subak system itself. And nevertheless, of course, we know that the climate change related problems also affect our situations surrounds the Jatiluwi and Subak. And then in this session, we try to get the attention first on the potential of the interdisciplinary to related with sustainability science approach. Again, trying to see on the how is the global system, climate, resource, energy, linking with the global warming and affect the social system on low, and at the same time it's also affect the human system. These three interrelated on the triangulation of the global system, social and human system is what the sustainability science try to address, especially on the sustainable production and consumptions. This aspect is also related with the agriculture, rice productions, farmer activity, water irrigation that support this activity. So it will highlight several related problems, the complexity of the problems at the masterclass for this afternoon. So again, as a new scientific field, but it's very human-nature dynamic interaction in nature. The issue problem-based approach, knowledge of action, and how we co-develop and co-implement on the evaluation process of the various stakeholder and discipline involved is actually what the sustainability science trying to address. And then in this indigenous knowledge. So again, the local knowledge on the Subak is what we are trying to highlight in these sections. And as we are trying to use sustainability science as an approach, so in this section, we would like to highlight the interdisciplinary approach of this sustainability science and how is the transformational approach for this exercise in this 4 series will helps in identify the local problems related with Subak. Back again, trying just to give another refreshment of what the size that we are talking about in this cultural landscape is not even reach 0.5% of the total area of Bali, 5,700 kilometer, 5,700 kilometers, and then this size of the World Heritage Sites of the cultural landscape, the small size, but they have potential for the core zone in the zonation of biosphere because they have the natural forest reserve, yeah, the national park here. But of course, they has also their own national park here. But maybe this is another long discussion on how to establish the zonation for the Bali province. But they have the potential, especially if we are looking at the current World Heritage Site status. The Subak landscape of Catur Angga, this the holiest place for the Balinese, should be also considered to be part of the core zone in the zonation of biosphere reserve. Water temples is also part of the consideration for the core zones. And back again to sustainability research is as inter and transdisciplinary research. The challenge is actually how to integrate this knowledge and method from different scientific disciplines in addressing one issue, for example, in Subak, and how to integrate again the life world and scientific knowledge. Life world means the knowledge from the practitioner, from the Pakasi, from the community leader, from the local government. They know exactly what was happened in the Subak. But the scientists sometimes they are very ideal with the concept and etc. So they will try to formulate scientific finding or results. But at the same time, in order to make this thing is close to the local, they have to make contextualization. They have to be close to the practitioner and then to the local knowledge, to the farmer, to the local community, in order to make the scientific research is more tangible or more applicable. But this is another challenge. But of course, in our exercise, we would like to bridge these 2 challenges. And again, the third one about the challenge is, of course, different perspective and knowledge successfully throughout the whole research process is another challenge for also this exercise in our 4 series of masterclass as a result of Asian Sustainability Leadership Program. So again, we would like to establish the approach and methodology in this session of masterclass. And just to give you another view on how is our previous program, and this is the team from leader from higher education in Malaysia and Indonesia in Bali. So this is a blend where the local, the higher leadership from university in Bali and also from Malaysia, we are together, and then in the focus group discussion, we are also work with the to come up with co-identifying the problems and the common problems that exist in this Subak. So let me allows me to show a short video of our visit to Jatilui, Rice Terrace, one of the rice heritage site. Where is the? No voice.
Voice.
No voice.
Use.
Just a minute. Seems we don't have voice.
Sorry. Voice.
Voice, no voice. How is it? Can I take this one as a different type of okay, I'm so sorry. Maybe the sound is not come out. So maybe we will start. We'll start with the next slide. I'm trying to explain about the tools that we have been used in our action research, that we use a participatory based research, workshop based type, and then where we are also invite the various community leaders and also the Perkasih, the farmer, and the academia, government officer, practitioner from the industry, private sector, and this is actually allows us to get more input from their experience in various activity related with the SUBAX from the involving the hotels industry, education, and etc. So another participatory tool for sustainability that also intend to integrate life world knowledge is, for example, in this picture we see the citizen juries types and scenario workshop or few scenario workshops, and another type is future conference. The idea is is another effort to get on how to deal with the conflicts concerning transformation strategies, and also to get the context to analyze the local levels, issue sensitivity, and etc. So the MasterClass 4 will explain more about the detail about our approach. And again, back to there are this effort actually the inter and transdisciplinary approach of sustainability science actually try to bridge the different areas of expertise and on how to enable the understanding between person with different scientific and professional background rationalities that is led to another tools that they call it as a development of constellation analysis. And again, there are more on the how to optimizing social and humanity capital through learning process approach. It will address in our speakers 2 and 3, and also the last speaker. So the aim is, if you still remember from the first masterclass 4, is to achieve the well-being for all. Yeah, actually. So again, as our extension to using the biosphere reserve as our main concern, the three different zones in the biosphere allows more activity related that actually already has established in Subak. So it's very interesting to look at on how is the Subak itself function as living laboratory for the community and as well of the students in universities. So it will help to strengthen the research and education element of biosphere reserve zonation function. And the conservation effort, of course, that's another very vital function that need to be established in this zonation, especially for the core zones, in order to maintain the ecosystem service that we already explained in the masterclass 1. And the idea to involving the community also another vital function where the buffer zone is very important to strengthen by the community-based development. For example, in Subak, we might consider community-based development, tourism, culture-based tourism, and etc. And others is about the private sector involvement. Our next masterclass will show you how is this private sector also play important roles in helps for the potential biosphere reserve for Bali province. Local community and culture tradition also is very strong values in this inscription of the Bali as a World Heritage Site. And as the main mission of the Man and Biosphere program is trying to achieve the balance between conflicting goals of environmental conservation and socioeconomic development. So it's very important to also address the local culture values that might help, that also helps in strengthening the local community developments. And again, just to recap on how is the complexity of the component of the cultural landscape of Bali province that already meet World Heritage Site criteria and need to be protected. They are listed under 7 components. The Pekasi or head of the farmers, the forest need to be protected as a water resource, and the water resource and the rice terrace landscape in Jatiluwi that we showed just now is also another component for the cultural landscape. And the water canal irrigation system and dam that we have already visit to Taman Ayun water temple network, and the villages that already has customary pakraman and dinas, and Dr. Utari will explain more about that. Water temple and the tradition and intangible heritage that already addressed in part of the complexity of the cultural landscape of Bali. So all these things are very important in establishment of the zonation, potential of zonation of Bali province for biosphere reserve. And again, I don't want to recap again. Just see that the next speaker will address how is the potential of the existing Subak living labs need to be focused and mobilized at the local levels. Again, so first of all, allows me to use the Dr. Agung Suryawan Wiranata from Research Center for Culture and Tourism, University of Udayana. He cannot come now because he has another conference in China. So during our Asian Sustainability Leadership Program, he presented to us the potential for Subak community-based tourism. Yeah. So just to recap again, the Jatiluwi has been well managed for the traditional farmer organization as part of the social ecological system, and then suddenly it becomes a problem when the mass tourism happens, and then how we now find the balance back in order to maintain the cultural values and also the natural values. The rice field itself provide us a very magnificent panorama, and also it becomes an attraction for the tourists comes to Jatiluwih. And the rice terrace itself also, as a result of traditional farming practice, they have the organic farming, they have the red rice as a result of the ancient centuries practice of a traditional agriculture method. And then also the tourist activities in these rice fields, they like to be sightseeing, taking pictures, taking photo, selfie, Wi-Fi in the Jatiluwih, yeah? And then rice terrace trekking, cycling, of course, and we have enjoying the coffee during in the Jatiluwih. It's very nice place, yeah. And again, when it comes to the another part of the Subak-based tourist attraction is actually, of course, they have another plantation despite the rice. Yeah, they have a coffee, cacao, vanilla, coconut snake, skin fruit, salak, local fruit. We call it salak, and also another local food, Indonesian local foods, and these are another potential for Subak-based tourism that becomes a capital, natural capital for the establishment of the zonations. Yeah. Just to show you the reach of the Jatiluwih is not only a rice terrace, they also have waterfalls, plantations, and natural hot springs, forests and mountains, and of course agriculture product. This is an organic product that are trying develop. They are now redeveloped again for reviving the organic rice productions. So these are actually the several natural capital of the Jatiluwih, and then the fourth speaker, Dr. Utari, will explain about the social capital. But now I would like to end this attraction of the Jatiluwih. It becomes increasing, yeah. And there is a positive response from the tourists in Jatiluwih. In despite of the several facilities are still lacking in this area, but the current tourist is already satisfied with existing Jatiluwih, what offered by the Jatiluwih area, rice terrace, brand awareness, the image, accommodations, and again, in order to back again to the Biosphere Reserve zonation assessment. So we would like to welcome Professor Keller and also Eka in order to fit into elaborate more the possibility for function of zonations. Yeah, Prof. Keller, the show is you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all, YouTuber, and also all my friends in Malaysia. My presentation is about sustaining the Subak system, as not only about Subak, but also in the Subak. And the right side is a participant from many countries who funded by Rockefeller Global Fellowship, who each year come to Bali, and usually they very love to learn about Subak. So why we use Subak as an excellent model to learn about sustainability, resiliency, interaction of human with the natural environment, and as well as their spiritual spirit. In the MasterClass first, you may still know that Prof. Winyo has mentioned at least Subak has 3 IUP, outstanding universal values, The first is Trihita Karana, mean three things or three factors to give to make welfare or happiness. And secondly is about democratic and egalitarian system, because in the Subak no has case, and they have leadership who regularly chosen by the Subak members. And the last is about because Subak has a water temple network. So this is a picture about water temple networks. So water temple networks mean a series of temples starting from highest temple and the up at lake level. Okay, sorry. Starting from this is highest temple. The name is Pura Ulundanu, located close to the lake, and spread down to Dosan Temple at watershed level, and then spread down again to several temple at Subak level, and the end is Thousand Temple at the land rise of Parma. So the function of the temple is not only for ritual, but mainly for we need called agroecological management. For example, for managing water irrigation, planting season, or plant pest and disease coordination. But from Prof. Windia, we also heard that there are a lot of problems, a lot of challenges with the Subak. One of this is a loss of generation, because till today, no young generation want to work in the rice field, because close to image dirty works, not enough income, and then close to uneducated, undeveloped. So for the reason we try to attract young generation by conducted a pilot project with the objective is to improve education for future teachers. Secondly, to develop learning materials on the rich historical of Subak system. And thirdly, is to facilitate action learning research to promote education or ESD, education sustainable development learning goals. This we use participatory action research. Our first step of research is consisted of 8 participatory action research. Each PER is consisted of plan, action, observation, and reflection. In the first step, we educate and train our student teacher with master, as well as school teachers, and also collect information about subject in relation of local issues in the school. Then in the fourth cycle, we have conducted a teacher workshop with experienced teachers, try to solve the problem and find the strategies how to insert or incorporate a Subak concept, values, and system into the school curriculum. Then our student develop model development and use model development to write a proposal project development, and then work with collaboratively with student and then with teachers to do a student action research. And the end, they writing scientific papers. These are 3 books were produced by based on our previous project. The first is called this is a student books that has produced more 3,000 copies and funded by USAID. This book is produced twice. This is the first edition, and the second edition is printed by our central government. The third book is about eco pedagogy. We call eco pedagogy mean how education can literate, can develop, can promote ecological literation, cultural literation, and then also technological literation. And our younger researcher, Agung Paramita, also produced a bilingual book. She will describe later after me. The title is about becoming Subak Pols. So these are example of learning modules that were produced by our student teacher with various diverse of topic, mainly on subject on biology and science. This is in Indonesian. Sorry. For example, this is about biodiversity of geopark Danau Batur or Batur Lake, and this is about how to use waste in a Subak landscape to make art science. This is about the title is about the interdependency among component in ecosystem and etc. We try also to encourage our students to develop participatory MaB. So participatory MaB is a general term that combine between modern cartography and also various technique and method in participatory to represent spatial of community areas as well as community environment. The left is we call a landscape or so the A is we call landscape mapping. Landscape mapping. This is describe about the state of local geography. This is local geography. So in this case, student like dragonfly in the sky and try to catch what below the sky. And this one it called story mapping. Consists of component, consists of draw and then a story in which comment relationship each the other. But also outdoor. In indoor situation, we try not always to use teacher-centered learning, but mostly student-centered learning. You see it in this picture. Our student work and discussion each other, and well, the function of lecturer is just as facilitator. And also, we went to the rice field. In this case, I work together with my student for observing plant pest and disease in the rice field. This is actually our student not come from Bali. She's come from Flores. She's come from I think from West Java, and then the farmers. We work together, and the farmer teach about what how the symptom of disease, and then what is the name of pest, and then etc. So this is an example of how our student take action research. Yeah. This pictures is about how a student interview directly a farmer. We try to combine not only usually Subak is a woman, but also we invited a woman to come to the Subak, and then what they did and actually in the Subak. So our student interview the farmers, and also our student engage discussion in the rice field with junior high school student, and then facilitate discussion in the class and give opportunity to junior high school to take an information directly from the farmer with interview. The other is we call a place-based education. That's mean using a local environment as starting point to learn about many things of subject, not only science but also for art, and then also for religion, also for social geography like this. Yeah. So this picture, our student engage senior high school to take a video and observe what they found, the data they found during in the rice field, and they also engage senior high school to take information or data directly from the farmers, not only from the teachers, not only also from us, from our lectures. And these are pictures about our high school student try to observe the quality of water irrigation. So we also try to conduct teacher workshops with Pak Yunus RB, and that's from central government. And in this workshop, mainly to discuss about possibility of my book as a model to incorporate Subak into school curriculum. This is the second book. But so far, what we did during the first step, when we take evaluation or reflection, in the first step, we only research about teach a student only about in Subak and also in Subak. We need moving forward not only about but also to the Subak. So for the reason we then develop a second step of project with this objective. This is an example of our activity in the second step. So student teacher help farmer directly to planting paddy rice, and help farmer also to keep duck in the rice field. So hopefully they will increase the income of the farmer. So for the second step, our activity we call as science, technology, society, and environment for achieving ESD goal. The second step is still focus on Subak landscape heritage, and also addressing education challenges. Is consisted of two sub themes. First is sustainable farming system that included economy, ecology, social, and culture. The second is about education for sustainable development. It included learning to live together, learning to be, learning to do, and learning to know. We have used integrated farming duck rice system as a model that go to the farmer and Subak rice field. The benefit of this model, we hope go to the farmer and Subak rice field, as well as for environment, for quality of soil, land and plant pest disease and management. And second, for economic, increasing farmer income also increasing quality of rice and reducing costs for maintain the rice. And third, to develop a sociopreneurship and network and also collaboration. And the fourth is culture to produce duck for cultural activities. In Bali, for ritual, we use many kind of duck, especially the feeders. For example, red duck, black duck, and white duck. The second focus is for our student teacher. With we hope to encourage our student teacher to develop their apply their core skill to everyday tasks and to approach complex challenges and also to approach their changing environment. So for the student, we use new ecological paradigm. This is a very popular instrument to measure how far our student have concern, environmental concern. And from this, we also develop we call educational tourism, in which later Eka or Kung Paramita or my young lecturer will describe more detail about it. This is an example of our student activity. Try to design a brochure for promote educational tourism. And for future recommendation, I think my young researcher will describe more detail about that. But before this, maybe you can show about digital story that tell about what our student done in attracting youth to more interest to the Subak. Thank you.
Oke Eka, langsung sini aja deh. You have your slide and the video.
This one?
Tiba-tiba connect Asia. Connect Asia Pasca. Communication. You use Pascal Umat, right?
Just Pascal Mas. Add Pascal Mas. Add Pascal Mas. Add Pascal.
Password.
Ini udah bisa seminggu udah dibuat.
Sudah.
Udah ada, coba.
Ini ada kok.
Bisa.
No, this one.
Huh?
This computer. You on this? Your computer? This. How about use this? Oh, nggak bisa. Bisa. Coba lagi. Katanya script. Jadi, bisa. Pascal mau bisa. Mau bisa. Coba beli aja deh. We cannot make a call. We cannot make a call. Tapi ini udah bisa nyambung kan?
Yeah, already.
But we cannot make a call.
It's already on.
Oh, right.
But Regina, you are connected with us.
Yeah. Can you show us our can you see us?
Yes. I think you are. Let me check on online. Yes, it's a streaming your screen.
The video, okay?
Yeah.
But is that
Yes.
did you see our video?
Yeah. And now it's you post it, right?
Because no showing in our
Because of this.
Oh, okay.
On our side, it's showing, but no sound.
Just please enter the video.
Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you very much for attending this session and also all the YouTubers there. So my name is Paramita Kaputri. I would like to continue the STSE in the educational approach that we have done in UNMAS in several years. But before that, I would like to showcase one product, or this is actually the video or digital story from our students at English Education Department. So they were asked to show their creativity in also critical thinking and actually picturing the problem which is happening in the Suba itself and also try to propose solution or recommendation. So later on, this kind of media can be used by the prospective teachers or teachers candidates to teach about Suba itself or deliver the information about Suba itself to the children or kids or secondary school students. So can you hear the voice or the sound there? So the video is entitled Sela or Sale. So this is Sela is one of type of yam. So this is the Balinese word for yam or cassava. And then my students, so our students tried to create some kinds of. So long story short, a grand hotel was built in the rice field, but they still keep the rice field on some sites. But then there is no place for the kids to play kites anymore. Even there is no place for the cow to grazing or get grass for their meals. So I would like to. Okay, so that was the story or the digital story. So in the end, many farmers regret because they cannot feed their cow and also people cannot play kites. So they decided to go to the rooftop, which is quite illegal. And then they got stopped by the guardians there. They regret in the end because they sell their land for the tourist activity itself. So through this video, we can see that the students or the prospective teachers, in this case, they show their creativity because they draw by themselves and then they do the simple video editing, and also they are acting as the dubber itself, as well as they show their critical thinking through this funny yet critical stories. Okay, so Prof. Kaler has explained how the integration of perspective and knowledge can be done through the contextualization, which is close for the society. And in this case, I see that there is a future recommendation on promoting a profession which is called as cultural interpreter. So this one is for the educational purpose for the student teachers or the prospective teachers, because it is very common in Bali. Suba is actually theirs, but they are not accustomed or they do not really know what is actually Suba itself. They only know that Suba is a form of irrigation system. That's it. So they don't really understand until the very full layer of what is actually Suba and how they should protect the Suba itself and why the Suba now is in danger. The idea of cultural interpreter actually comes from the talk between the UNMAS lecturers and also the farmers. So many farmers think that they cannot talk in English, and they are only the passive audience when the guides come to their site, the Subak site, bringing tourists. So they do the cycling together, but then the farmers only work and they get nothing for that. So we know that actually there are aspiration of local culture which has not been delivered through the guide itself, because the guide usually knows only on the surface. They do not really touch what is actually the idea of Subak itself. And sometimes they just let the tourists to see the scenery, and then that's all, just passing by the Subak site itself, and then they go. So based on that case, we believe that there is actually a potential occupation or job, which is called as cultural interpreter. What is cultural interpreter? So CI is a mediator between two or more cultures. So in this case, this mediator are proficient in the second or foreign language. So in this case, they are proficient in talking English and also in Bahasa Indonesia. And then the other duty of the CI itself is to give the quality service to the guest or the tourist in this case. And then they also help the guests in understanding the local environment. And also they can be the bridge which can introduce the guests with the important people or important local people in the community. CI is actually an entrepreneur, form of entrepreneurship, which can be taken by the student teachers of biology. Why this idea arise? Because the first, there is an ecotourism and tourism potential of agricultural sector in Subak. The second is that the teachers of biology, so they have passed several courses which are closely related to Subak cultural landscape. The last idea or reason is that because they are obliged to enroll in some English courses, so in the first and also 7th semester, so they are quite accustomed to speak English. Here is an image of our students while they are doing the simulation as cultural interpreter. CI in this case is actually the innovation of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and also STSE, which has been delivered by Prof. Kaler. Why? Because the CI itself explored the STEM matters. So in this case, the students show their perspectives and also critical thinking about the problem which is actually happening in Subak itself, and they are actively seeking for alternatives or solution towards that problem. Well, in predicting the alternative towards the problem itself, they blend modern science and ethnoscience. So the modern science that they got through the technology, through the ideas of networking and etc., with the ethnoscience, or in this case is Subak itself. CI also enable our students to elaborate their findings which are beneficial for the lives of individual, community, and environment. So the implementation of CI in Universitas Mahasaraswati Denpasar was gone through 3 schemes, so plan, develop, and realization. So in the step of planning, we are introducing our students to the concept of principles of being a cultural interpreter. What is actually cultural interpreter? And after that, they explore the competencies needed to be a cultural interpreter. So they are looking from the communication side, and also they are looking from the knowledge and what they have got during their course in the biology department. And the last one step in the plan is that they discuss the type of activities, so the edutourism activities, which can be promoted at Subak Pulagan. So how do they conduct this? So they've gone through several steps. So the first is they interview the farmers and then they take pictures and videos needed. So they really go to the site to explore any possibilities of activities and also to see what is actually the condition, the exact condition of the Subak site itself. And then we go to the second stage, that is develop. In this case, the student teachers, they explore the concept of edutourism program. So they experience it in the simplest form. So we ask our students to plant the rice together with the farmers. So this is hand-on activities, and they can see how to pick the weed, and then how to plow the rice field or the land, and how hard it is being a farmer. So they experience by themselves. And after that, they create a mind mapping about the concept of PDR itself, and they start to design and develop the packages of basic edutourism. And in the last stage, in the form of realization, they do some role plays, so one becoming mentor or cultural interpreter, and the rest act as tourists. And after that, they visit the Subak site and do simulation of becoming CI. And of course, after that, they do some kinds of reflection towards the simulation. What was their strength? What was their weaknesses? And what do they think of this kinds of profession? Do they think that CI is a potential profession for them in the future? And they can tell us. So as you mentioned, as you hear, that Pak Kaler already mentioned that our students, most of them come from another part of Indonesia. So eastern part of Indonesia, from NTT, NTB, and the other islands. So we also ask their possibilities of implementing CI in their origin or in their place when they come home. So here are the design of edutourism activities at Subak Pulagan. So this is the result of our students' thinking, brainstorming. So the theme are separated into 3 topics. So the first is the recreation, and the second is education, and the last is an introduction to culture. In the recreation, there are some activities, for example, like cycling around the site, jogging, following the track, rafting in the nearby river, and playing kites in the Subak site. For the education theme, they believe that they can do the best provide basic adventure for elementary school students to learn about Subak ecosystem, biodiversity, and food chain. In the education theme also, the student can arrange to participate in farmers' daily activities such as plowing the land, planting the rice, harvesting rice, carrying away the birds, and picking weeds. In other case, they also believe that duck rice program is also interesting for the tourists itself because they can have a practice in taking care and selling the duckling itself, and also taking care of the cattle and feeding them. So this activities is actually what they really want to do in the education theme. And the last, for introduction of culture, they propose 4 activities. The first is the tourists can participate in creating offering, and then they experience the ritual in the Subak site. The second, they can cook and enjoy the traditional food while drinking young coconut picked from the farmer land. The third, they can create handicraft from the materials found in Subak. And the last, they can stay in the farmer's house and follow their organizational activities in Subak. So here are the pictures of our students while they are doing the simulation. So we have done this through some phase. And here are the response from our students. That 16% of the respondents found difficulties in communicating with the farmers because they were not proficient in Balinese, and most of the farmers only speak Balinese. The second, implication gained from the program, they believe that the program of CI developed their oral communication skills and speaking style in English. The second, place-based education inspired them to approach the farmers directly and to know the activities on the grassroots, sharpen their collaboration skills, enhance their creativity and critical thinking. And they believe they would like to consider CI as a potential profession. Well, I think that's all from me. Now I would like to give the time back for the next speakers.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, YouTubers.
Next.
I am Nyoman Utari Fevrianti, lecturer in Mahasaraswati Denpasar University in Bali province, and I would like to continue this session with my presentation about social capital of Subak. But for the first step, I would like to remind you about province, Bali province, that one of a small province in Indonesia with a vision of culture tourism. Because of there are so many traditional organizations in Bali. In the other hand, tourism developed so fast. So the government of Bali province would like to develop tourism as a main sector, but not leave agriculture or traditional knowledge in Bali. So Subak is one of traditional organization that famously known, maybe in all around the world, have a very rich local knowledge, very wise and manage natural resources. In the last session, Ms. Eka have showed that Subak is important for Bali, not only for economic growth, but also for prevent the culture. So all stakeholders have to save Subak. And this session, I would like to show that the social capital of Subak and the effort via social capital to make Subak sustain in the future. Recently, our young generation, especially in Bali province, Hindu young generation, almost not known well about Subak. If we ask them about what is Subak, the answer is very simple. Subak is a water organization. Subak is a paddy field or something like that. So it's not happy when we hear about and when we know about their understanding about Subak. So worry in the future, because it will be a big problem for sustaining Subak if young generation not known well about and aware about Subak, or not involved in sustainable program of Subak. Before I explain about Subak social capital, I would like to remind all of us about what is social capital. We know about two basic approaches of social capital. The first one, social capital as a private good. The second one, social capital as a collective or public good, developed by Fukuyama, Putnam, Haber, and Roman. The first one, social capital as a private good, developed by Bourdieu, Coleman, Portes, and Lin. Social capital as private good for Bourdieu is a private investment in social network that bring the owner expected benefits such as wealth, and a symbolic capital representing symbol of social position or strata. For Coleman, as for the earlier sociologists, the social capital is first of all an individual good that could be, however, traded through the social network for the advance of the human capital or get things done. Lin defines social capital as an investment in social relation with expected return in the marketplace. A collective or public good of social capital, as stated by Fukuyama, Putnam, and Huber, define social capital as a set of informal rules and ethical values common for a social group that enable them to act effectively. Putnam define social capital does not belong to anybody, but is a public good representing set of social norms and civic attitude, supporting common action and trust. Huber defines social capital as resources embedded in social network which can be potentially accessed or are actually used by individual for action. So the definition of social capital from Huber is connect to Subak social capital. Social capital refer to network together with shared norm, values, and understanding that facilitate cooperation within or among group, stated by OECD 2001, and then Grotert and Fass-Bestler, World Bank 2002, define social capital as institution, relationship, attitude, and value that govern interaction among people and contribute to economic and social development. So as general, social capital is a special type of capital resulting from investment in building relation, institution, and network that produce collaborative attitude, shared norm and values, mutual understanding and trust, critical factor for cooperation with other type of capital, and thus contributing to sustainable development. how we could measure the role of social capital and sustainable development. The economic value of social capital depends on time invested. So more longer time invest in building networking. Hope that social capital will be more tight, more high level. Similar approach proposed by Roman with a set of complex indicators assessing its value, social capital value, mainly through surveys. Roman described social capital measurement like this slide. So there are 5 central elements. The first one is natural resources, labor, capital, technical level, and then institutional framework. So the main power of social capital can define by trust, how we trust each other, so how wide the networking norm. So we can classify social capital as 2 classes. First one is bonding social capital that built inside the member, and then bridging social capital that built by interrelation between the other organization. So we can state that 4 group of indicator measuring social capital is the first one is measuring association, measuring trust, measuring existing institution, and then measuring result. So how about social SUBAK social capital? In fact, SUBAK have a bonded natural capital because the land that managed by farmer smaller every years, and then human capital, there's a low level education of a farmer in Bali. Farmer not have a good access in financial capital, but they rich in social capital. So the maybe the only one capital that have developed to make SUBAK sustainable in the future is encourage them to enhance their social capital. We can describe about bonding trust that built among members in SUBAK. Because of SUBAK, members of SUBAK may be the owner of rice field or representative. So not always member of SUBAK is the owner of the land, the paddy field. There are gap between one member and the other's member, but inside the organization, there are the trust built very well. So every members trust the other. So the election of the head of SUBAK organization called Pakase very democratic. So the board elect democratically. Usually not need so many meeting, just only one meeting, and then they elect the board, the person in the board the person to be Pakaseh as a head of Subak. They don't need companion like that. So as we know, the board of Pakaseh consists of the board of Subak consists of the Pakaseh as the head of the Subak, and then assisted by some Klian as a smaller head, as a head of Subak, and some juru, we call juru arah in Balinese, for Subak for doing communication to the member related to the activity should be done. They make rules we call awik-awik, maybe known well, usually locally, just only for Subak member. All process in Subak based on trust, so very democratic. The other kind of trust is bridging trust, how Subak member trust the other one outside the Subak member, outside their village, and maybe come from abroad. So Subak, the dynamic organization of Subak make them very welcome with the other person from outside village or from the abroad. So in general, the principle of Subak in Bali are same, very welcome with the other person. So they trusting everyone, not only the member, but also for stranger people. So in the concept of social capital, usually if a community have a very high level in bonding social capital, they have a smaller level of bridging social capital, bridging trust also. But in Subak is very unique. They have they trust everybody, not only their member inside the organization, but also outside, come from outside the organization. The networking of Subak very tight. The networking is the member of Subak not only as member of Subak organization only, but also member of village, traditional village called Desa Pekraman, or modern village called by administrative village. So the networking, the number of networking that they involve, the member Subak involved is big. Is some organization, they involve in some organization, and then as Prof. Kaler stated before, that the Trihita Karana as a main norm in Subak that describe about the equilibrium of welfare, the balancing of relationship between member with God, with and with the other member, and then with the environmental. So the focus on environmental balance and sustainability have implemented well by SUBAC member. So I could deliver conclusion for this session that SUBAC has been famous in the world, but not enough famous for our young generation. So we need more effort to make young generation interested in agriculture, in SUBAC and BIOSPHERE and the others traditional organizations, so they can involve and aware about how to manage sustainability, how to manage SUBAC in the future. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Keller, Dr. Utari, and Bu Eka. We have how many minutes for the question and answer? Maybe we can pick up 1 or 2 questions from the audience in Malaysia, in Bali, in Tokyo. Question from the students in Universitas Mahasaraswati. We already reflects back what already has been presented on in the last 2 speakers, and also my presentation on tourism. All of them are trying to address from different perspective on issue related with SUBAC, but as part of our exercise. So the next MasterClass 4 will address on the transdisciplinary approach of sustainability science, and we will conclude how the interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary will process as part of the participatory based approach of workshop based approach that we will conducted before. And if there is no question, maybe I can close this MasterClass 3 session. Right? Thank you very much for your participation and watching our presentations. And we will take a rest for another 15 to 20 minutes for the next session of MasterClass 4. Thank you. See you again.